All right, let's go back to our QGIS. And I've sort of moved around here a little bit. We were back up here and it looked like that, but I wanted to look a little bit at the field station. So I slide down the lake since I know it's here somewhere. There it is, Juniata Field Station. And we can see this imagery. We can see what's going on there. And I'm going to zoom in tight to sort of the Grove Farm boat launch. And we sort of see some degradation and some patchiness in the hills. And we might like to record that. We might like to record that. We might like to look at what the vegetation condition is there and pull in some slightly higher res imagery. This is really, really good imagery, but the state does imagery all of the time to measure to see if people are following their farm requirements. And so we are going to go to Moodle and look up we're going to do PASD, PSU imagery, and I'm going to go to the Navigator download tool, zoom into our region, State College. There's our lake, put it dead center, and then click till we get to the Field Station Peninsula, which is right there, and keep zooming in. And keep zooming in until I get where I want to be. And I'm going to right click. And we have a lot of different years of imagery that we could go back and get. Farm services. We could get LiDAR and topo, which is really, really high resolution elevation data. We could go back and we could get JPEGs and TIFFs of this. They're not georeferenced, but we could georeference them relatively easy and do a time change. There's nothing for this year yet, but there will be. So we're going to go to the 19, which is the most recent one we have. We'll click download and it will take a while to download. I'm going to cancel because I already downloaded it and you don't need to watch this. I'm going to show it in the folder. I will right click and extract all. And we see this is going to pop up and we have a map that we can get. We could drag this into QGIS directly. But I'm going to go here so you know where we generally go. We're going to go to layer, add layer. We are going to this time add a raster layer because that's what this is. It's a raster, it's a picture, it's just a box of numbers, which is there. And I'm going to click in our M1. I'm not going to change the name of this because it helps us when we have to go get other ones to know the ones that we have already downloaded. So here we go. And we can see this in heading into fall colors, which is really kind of cool. And we can see that it's with leaf off that we have more sort of open ground than you might have expected looking at the imagery. So we have the one side that's flatter and the one side that's steeper, and you see the flatter area has more use and you see trails on it and stuff like that. So, and we can zoom into our boat docks here and see our boats. So this is reasonably good imagery, but this has a nice feature, and then it allows us to do different bands. And so we are going to play with that a little bit here. So we are going to click on our properties for that. And when we come up, we'll see that we have a red band, a green band, and a blue band. So we have RGB, and that's natural. But what if we went to 4, which is the infrared band, and put that in the red and applied? Oops, I missed. Okay, so suddenly when we put the IR in the red, we see that suddenly all of the tree-like stuff turns really, really bright red. And that's what we get with infrared and red. And this is in a sense, a false, and we can play with this until we, oops, that wasn't what I wanted. All right, that ends up making it purple. So we can play with this to get different levels of pop that we want. I'm going to go to a 4, 3, 2 image here and apply and okay. And this is what they call a false color composite. They used to just do it with IR, but I'm just showing you that we can give ourselves an imagery with IR and stuff here that you can really see the areas very, very distinctly that have vegetation on them, as they are very bright red, and the stuff that doesn't have vegetation on it is, well, bluish green. And our water has no chlorophyll in it. So this IR is really a measure of chlorophyll. We're going to do a better measure of chlorophyll. And when we come over here to look at our James Creek boat launch, we can really see pavement in this really quite well. So it helps us determine trees or vegetation and non-vegetation. Things really, really stick in here. If we bounced over to Broom by Acres, we don't have it for that. So let me go back. Right, we would have to go download it for that, but we can get a pretty good sense of vegetation and non-vegetation in our field station area. All right, so we walk out, there's our loop, we walk back down here, this is our play area, right, where we walk down and play around on the beach there. So we can see some of that area is fairly denuded, and there's also some shadows in there which sort of gives us fit. But we are going to do our first raster calculator run here, and we are going to go to raster calculator, and we are going to start off, we're going to do band 4 minus, hello. Sure. So I'll meet you there at 5 at Olive Garden. Okay, I'll meet you there at 5:15, or I'll sit there and type or have a. Okay. Okay. Bye. All right. So it's going to be minus band 3, and we're going to put an end parenthesis there, and we're going to put a slash to divide. We're going to begin with a parentheses, then we're going to put band 4 plus band 3, and this is going to give us a normalized differenced vegetation index here. And we'll say, okay. I didn't give it a name. Click my 3 dots. Downloads. Put it in here, and I'll call it ratio veg. And okay, and now it's going to invalid expression. Oh, I have 2 minuses in there, so it doesn't like having 2 minuses. And I don't have a plus in there. So now it's a valid expression, and then I click OK, and it's going to spin for a minute. This is a pretty zippy machine, so it won't take too long. And then boom. So we end up, you see, we have this very, very bright where there is chlorophyll being produced, and black where there is not chlorophyll being produced. So on pathways where there are grassways, you will see vegetation. You will see it not as black, but when you come down to roadways and that, it will be fairly dark. And like I said, black bodies, they call that black bodies for a reason. But again, we see very little there. So we've done our ratio veg or normalized difference actually. And we will go to properties on this. And it's a single band gray. And I'm going to go to a single band pseudo color. And I would like to do red to green and apply that. And okay. And okay. So that gives us our NDVIs. NDVI goes between -1 and 1. At -1, there is no chlorophyll reflectance, and at +1, it's all chlorophyll reflectance. Or at -1, it's none, and at +1, it's all. So we see that it goes to blue, not green. I would want to play with that a little bit before I made a poster out of it, but what we can see at that 0 level is that much of the areas that we see are producing, particularly in this fall image, have very low NDVI values. We can go to our eye tool, which is up here, and we see that's -0.05, -0.04. And we look at a dense stand of trees, it's 0.32. We look at water, it's -0.78. So we could actually use this to do some very rough classification of our image. I'm going to back up a little bit here and drag to the whole area, get my hand so we can see. So we could and will look at differences in differences. So if we created one of these from a previous year at the same time, and then we did a difference between the two of these, that would give us a change in chlorophyll production or a change in vegetation health over that time. So if something was getting better, it would go from negative to positive. If it's getting worse, it would go from positive to negative. It's a way of looking at this. NDVI is something that we will look at in precision agriculture to see if we're getting good growth in all areas. So if you have a cornfield and it's growing super vigorously, producing lots of chlorophyll, those areas will be very bright, very high NDVIs, and it will drop off in areas that might be getting overwatered or under fertilized. And we will do some of that and see it. So anyway, like I said, this is pretty good data, and we can zoom in, and our pixel size is pretty small there, and that came out of this one, and we will look at our properties. Okay, this is 60 centimeters, I think. It's UTM zone 17, so let's see if that followed through when we created our ratio veg. So we'll look at that again. We'll go to our properties and our information. Tells us where it is. Tells us it's float. Tells us that it's NAD 8317 north, so it's exactly the same as the other one. Tells us our mins and maxes. And we didn't put any information about it in to tell other things like pixel size and other things like that, which might be kind of useful. And here it's 60 centimeters, 0.6 meters, 0.6 meters. And so we're happy with what we have. And that's the end of this mini lecture.